day. They're across Twitter, crypto Twitter, throughout social media, Telegram, Discord. We've got fear, FUD, and all this stuff about the Fed and these boosts, right? Rate boosts, rate hikes, all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
And the markets are kind of reacting to that. We saw a lot of red or bleeding of the markets. But today we saw some hope. I saw some green today.
Yeah. Well,
I see a little something happening, which we can get into, but I see some hope. I don't know.
We'll see what happens after the disclaimer.
Yes, we're gonna have that, but we're gonna be talking about the actual meeting that's taking place. It actually already started. It's 9 o'clock. The markets are up, and we are expecting the results from the meeting around 2 p.m. Eastern. Right?
That's right. Yeah. Usually they release it earlier than you expect, like 1:30. I'm guessing they'll probably do a little early release.
Okay. Now I was just looking some stuff up again, and you could actually tune into the actual meeting. So this is something that's live that everybody could actually watch if they wanted to. But not us. Stay here. Go check that out later. All right, we're gonna talk about that, and then we're gonna get into the charting and actually look at the markets and to see kind of where we're going. So as Will said, disclaimer first. We'll be right back. All right. The disclaimer is going to happen no matter what, but I feel like we could feed them a little information. That's okay.
Right. All right. Yeah.
So right now, as even before we talked about FOMO, so the fear of missing out. For those that are looking for the Fed rate hikes, the boost, you might come into something called the Federal Open Market Committee.
That's right.
So FOMC.
That's right. FOMC.
So it's something different. This has nothing to do with FOMO, but it's just another term. And this is a real committee. So this is what they're discussing, and they're going to tell us what they plan on doing.
So there's a Federal Reserve and then the FOMC.
Right? Yep. But not FOMO. And we didn't do any misspellings. That's just what it is. I want to get that out of the way.
They're definitely not the FOMO. That's for sure. In fact, I feel like it's the reverse, especially as of late. Right.
Yep. All right. So what's happening today? And I know that we were actually late today because you were busy looking at the markets.
Yeah, I was actually analyzing the markets on my other monitor here, and that's why I was late. Yeah.
So what's actually happening today? For those that are doing their actual research into this, they don't want to just go on social media. They don't want to be like misled. What's the real facts here? What's actually happening today?
So the expectation is that there's a 50 basis point rate hike today. If it ends up being more hawkish and becoming a 75 basis point rate hike, then we'll immediately see a correction, just immediately. And then it will start getting into scary territory, in my opinion. If we see that or less, is basically green day. Like it's just going to kind of break out of this bear channel, at least temporarily, until the next FOMC meeting next month. And, a lot of these kind of bearish movements we see before these meetings are driven by uncertainty and fear, right? So people de-risk, they sell, and then they wait for the decision, and then they buy back in. And that's kind of what usually drives it.
Okay. I was actually going to just do a quick screen share. This is the actual FOMC calendar, right? So this is something that's publicly available, because you just had mentioned that we're going to have more meetings. So this isn't something that just happens once a year. It's multiple times. So we're in May, then we got June, July.
Yep, every month
just
almost.
Keep freaking hitting us with this stuff, no? It's like they can really play with our emotions, I guess.
Well, this is in a very pivotal year for markets, because as we all know, inflation has gotten completely out of control. And so the FOMC is kind of playing with their knobs that they have to see how high can they raise the rate hikes, right? The interest rate, without actually spooking the market to cause a recession. And that's actually very difficult to do. And you toss into the mix this other war going on and all this stuff too, and that actually further complicated the problem. which
sure.
they didn't even expect. Like
They
nobody
did.
expected
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say that's something you don't have control over.
Yeah.
That kind of blindsided them.
Hmm.
So basically, today we're just waiting to. I mean, do these kind of have like leaks, or is sometimes like you already kind of have an idea as to what's going to happen, or this is this really just like boom, like here's what's happening.
It's pretty locked down, but the reaction will be immediate when he either says something in the meeting, right? Like in the live cast, it might say something, a artist will immediately dump or continue as they are.
Okay.
Or, there'll be a statement released and it'll be immediate, like within seconds. And this is because a lot of big money is in these kind of automated systems now, kind of like Fate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're automatically parsing through documents and they're like actually like interpreting videos like in real time and like coming up with
That's
basically
crazy.
So what big funds will do is be like, okay, we're looking for him to say this or this, and this is positive, or this and this and this is negative. So they kind of pre-build that into their models before these meetings.
That's
Right.
crazy. That's
So they
insane.
have programs that are sitting here like listening to the live cast like it's a program. Right. And it's
Yeah,
like
full
any sort
AI.
of
Well, we don't have to say full AI, but transcribers are or put into like a bot machine, right? They could do that.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of natural language processing is also AI as well, machine learning type models.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So literally, they're just waiting for those specific words to then dictate how fast everything can then change.
Yep. Exactly.
I just pulled up, I mean, Yahoo Finance. I don't have the crazy charts like you do behind you. We see that already, but looks like everything's kind of it's looking greenish. That's why I said before maybe this is just perhaps some hope that there will be some positive news.
Well, we don't know that yet. Nobody knows,
I
right?
know
So
that's the
what
funniest
happens
part.
is everybody, and you'll take a look at the volume profile. Let me just bring up some charts here.
Okay. So flat out, everybody that's kind of starting. So I know this is we're talking about FOMO, right? So it's always that fear. But you then, I'm just looking through these news articles, man, and it's like the largest Fed hike boost ever since like 2000s, and blah blah blah, this and that. But as you just said, nobody knows what's going to happen. So are a lot of these articles really just BS? I mean, they
It's,
are like, what's the point behind this? Why are so many people kind of trying to instill this type of fear? Well, what's the reason for that? Are they trying to get you
well,
ready for perhaps the negative side? Or then if it's a positive note to them, be like, oh, well, that was the worst thing that could have happened to like backtrack. Because I'm always curious to know about like both sides. It's weird.
well, think about you have to take a step back from everything and realize that media outlets, like even ones that claim to be impartial, have to make money, right? They're
Yeah.
businesses, right? And how they do that is they get you on their site and they sell you ads or they sell your information, right?
Clickbaits.
So how do
That's
they
what it
do
is.
that? It's clickbait. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they play with your emotions because that's the easiest way to get people on websites, right? Is by playing with their emotions. And then they go and they sell you ads. Right. So I wouldn't listen to any of that. None of that is impartial. It's just to get you on their media outlets so that they can profit. Right. So it's actually very hard to get impartial information about markets because it's such an emotionally charged topic. Anything dealing with money is emotionally charged for basically anyone.
Anybody, exactly. Yeah. If you think you're going to be losing or gaining, you're on it. You're acting right away.
Yeah.
But that's why I also love having you on a show and being the host of this show because we are fully transparent, blunt to the point to say we don't do the clickbait stuff, but we are, in fact, telling you what you need to know about what's happening today.
Yeah, and
And we
like
give
and
both sides.
subscribe.
We give
If you
all
actually
sides of
want real
everything.
impartial information, like
Yeah,
and subscribe. Like
we're
you see
doing it.
other market analysts and they're doing the same tactic because they got to make money. So they're like, the market apocalypse is going to happen, and that's the title of their video. And it's like a picture of them
Oh my God.
like this,
Yeah. Always insane.
come on,
Should we do that? Should we do that for next time?
maybe we'll get
Just
100,000
rage out.
subscribers if we do that. I don't know.
All right. I see your screen. I could share it now. So we're gonna go through some charts. You're good?
Yeah.
Always gotta ask. All right, you're on. So what are we actually looking at? What chart is this?
Oh, what did I put?
S&P.
Move came down. Sorry, I did that by mistake. So this, I always start with S&P 500. As I've talked many times, this kind of controls all of the sub markets. This is January. This top here, everybody knows, and I think I may have mentioned this last time. Every month, you see that it's a top so far, right? And now we've exactly 1 month later, we hit a perfect bottom, almost exactly touching the bottom of this linear regression channel, which is 2 standard deviations below the average, which is this bar, right? So why is it every month doing this? This has everything to do with taxes, right? So if you sell a security at a loss, you cannot then rebuy it within a month, and not basically changes how you get taxed. You cannot write off that loss anymore in your taxes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the objectives of big money has to do with optimization of taxes. So what ends up ultimately happening in markets is you then have these monthly patterns like this. And this is why monthly charts are important. It's entirely due to this wash sale rule with taxes. So you'll see here, this has been playing out every month since January, right?
Yeah,
where we
like
see
same cycle.
a change in direction exactly a month later, right? And it's due to that, right? So we've just completed the 1 month here in the beginning of May. So now we're at the critical decision point, which happenstance also times with the FOMC meeting, right?
Isn't that like ironic? Isn't that weird how things kind of just connect like that, especially just in the financial world? Mm-hmm. That's weird. Like we always talk about just patterns and cycles, but it literally, like how we said, the war, all that, or just the political sense, all the nonsense that's out there.
Yep.
That we didn't expect that. And yet, when you look at everything, it's weird how it still connects. Like I always find that just interesting. I'm always interested in numbers, patterns, all that kind of stuff, and to see it all kind of connect. We're not a conspiracy theorist, but it's interesting. So
these are how policy decisions on a governmental level affect markets, right? So this wash sale rule was a policy decision made a long time ago, and it's controlled markets, just that decision alone. And every time the FOMC has a meeting where they talk about the decision about rates, it also controls the market. Everybody kind of leaves the market and they wait for the decision, and then they decide what to do after that. Yep. Okay? And this is where we're at now. So we have A or B, and we're right on this yellow line, which I think I've mentioned before. The yellow line, if you
that's our favorite line. We always talk about this line.
Right. This is the S&P line. I got one for Bitcoin too. This is your basic S&P line. The entire bull market since the last crash of 2008, including the COVID crash, all follows this line. If you buy on this line anywhere where the S&P touches this line, you're making 30% a year in the long run. And big money knows that. This is a 30% per year line. Right?
Oh, all right. So that we definitely didn't mention any other time. So that incline is based on, could theoretically be a 30% increase. Mm-hmm. That's the angle. Okay. That's actually
pretty interesting. Basically, you buy this in the long run, like over years of time, you will make 30% a year, right? So people talk about on average you make 8% per year. This is how you make per year, by literally buying and holding on this line.
So where do you get? Where is something like that mentioned anywhere, and then in a public setting like this? But I'm leading that into something else. But you got where I'm getting. You see where I'm getting at.
Yeah. So we're zooming out on the week chart here, and you'll see this moving average, which is the MA 150. So this is 150 weeks average, the average of the last 150 weeks here on this blue line. And you'll see here how very important corrections in history kind of touch this line.
Yep.
So this, if you buy on this line, anywhere where it touches this MA 150, you're golden. Like, dude, you will be wealthy. You will be wealthy very easily. Question is, will we ever hit this line again? Right? Because it's very rare. You're talking about like only a few times in the past decade.
Then it's usually after that, it's an immediate spike back up because everybody's just getting into that opportunity.
Yes. So this line currently is around 3,700 for the S&P. So if we touch around there, 3,700, 3,800, something like that, that's a position that's a life-changing amount of money. Okay. So if we have a 75 or higher basis point, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that maybe that's what a negative outlook on today's meeting could send us to, like that kind of lower trajectory?
I don't think it'll send us there immediately, but if we go into recession where it's just like down, 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 it will hit it.
Yeah,
it will hit it. So they have to be very careful. The immediate target, if we have a negative surprise in the meeting, is 4,000. You'll see here in 2021, a little bit over a year ago, we had this interesting gap, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed this, where we kind of were around 4,000 for the S&P, and we immediately crossed over and jumped above it and never came back. Right? So this is a kind of trading gap, and these things tend to ultimately be closed at some point in time. So if there's a negative surprise in the meeting, the S&P will immediately seek to close this gap at 4,000. And so I marked this in green. So it'll come right back to the bottom of this linear regression channel and close this gap.
Well, right. The other part is this is, as we just saw before, there's other meetings in the future. So just because this one could also be positive doesn't mean that the other ones are then on the same level, right? I mean, that could also change. It's not just this one meeting that's going to dictate everything, right?
Yeah, and so the next one is, we'll mark 1 month from here, right? Wash sale roll, right? So we'll go over to early June, right? There'll be another decision point here.
Yep.
Right, and I'm sure there's an FOMC meeting probably in early June, happenstance, right? So we got scenario A, which is that negative surprise, come down here. This is immediately bought back up because it's under this 30% trend line. It's -2 standard deviations. It closes this gap. So many things coincide. So this will immediately be bought back up and come into here, and there'll be another decision point. Right?
So here's the fun roller coaster ride. They could literally just take us for like endless cycles.
So that's scenario A, right? This is actually my analysis from last time. As you see, this played out in this way, right? And this was the other scenario that was more positive, did not happen. Scenario B is that we have a positive 50 or higher. Our 50 basis points or lower. And then this upward kind of direction that we've started continues, right? And then we go up here this way to hit the top of this channel and the top of this moving average and this. So this would be a convergence point around here, around 4,500 A, right? So this is the bull target for the next month, and this is the bear target.
Okay.
That's for the S&P. So how would this govern the other markets, right? It's the next natural question.
Either way, though, it looks like whatever happens at this point in time, the next meeting could then send it back to that yellow line, though. Everything just goes back to that. So, we could go down.
It's very bearish. What will happen is it'll just get rejected, right?
Ultimately, what I'm saying, though, is like it could go down, but then it's going to come back up. And then in the other positive scenario where it's going up, they could then send it back down to that yellow line. So it's like a ping pong match.
Well, what will happen in a very bearish situation is this will be bought up. It'll come back here. Then the wash sale roll will kick in, and then everybody will sell because ultimately the outlook is bearish. So then it will continue like this.
All right.
And then we don't want down to 3,700, which is that MA 150 on the weekly, right? So that's the life-changing amount of money, right? So if we have this pattern where it goes like this, and you buy it here on 3,700, where at this point there's going to be fear all over the news, and it's going to be scaring the shit out of you. And people are going to say, walk away from the stock market, never buy the stock market. It's going to go to zero.
So they're really going to play this part to just let it keep going down, down, down. Then just
but
buy it up.
this is when you buy, right? Is when there's maximum fear in the market, just like with COVID, right?
Good times.
Everybody was here during COVID.
Yeah.
And you remember this time, market was going down, 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 and people are like hyperinflation, like all this, like market's going to zero, right? Yeah. And if you had bought any of this downtrend, ultimately you were flying. Ultimately, you were flying.
True.
Right.
Now, do you think more of a longer term? So we were just looking at positive, negative based on like a monthly time frame, right? In the long run, because I do see this throughout Telegram, Twitter, that a lot of people have the opinion that we are actually heading into like a recession or just like worse markets. Do you think whatever decisions that are made to where there is positive news, that could kind of be like a Band-Aid that just doesn't solve the long-term issues? Or is it really just as easy as changing these rates to then get us out of a recession or possible recession? I know this is more like economics, but based on charts and then long run and then following that yellow line, it looks like it can never really go that far down if we're just looking at past, right?
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately cash is being created, right? So that cash goes to investments, and then ultimately the market and GDP and economy goes up over time, right?
Well, it's always interesting, just that one trend line. So if it ever really dips below that, I mean, that's as you keep saying, that's the biggest opportunity you can get.
Yeah, that is the biggest opportunity. If you have cash to buy, right? So, I mean, this is why a lot of money has sold on these monthly timelines to kind of free up cash in case this happens. See how this moving average is approaching here?
Yep.
Right around 3,800. So, yeah.
All right, let's get out of S&P. Let's head into the crypto component, because we got a lot of people saying BTC to lower 30s, all this other nonsense. Let's see if this is true or not.
There's always two paths, right? Always two paths. So
also say with Fate, by the way, so those that aren't aware as to Flourishing AI, and we keep saying Fate, and we'll just put her in a spotlight for a little bit. So Fate is, in my opinion, the very first true artificial intelligence trader data-based support that you could ever find, throughout the whole crypto space. And yesterday I actually did a command and asking her to see what she thought about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BNB. And Bitcoin and BNB, she said hold, but then Ethereum, she said sell.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting, because those are the main, or three of the largest market cap projects out there. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out in the charts too.
Yeah, we'll take a look at all of them. Start with Bitcoin here. So we see we're in this channel. I think many analysts have drawn the same channel, really obvious to a lot of people recently. I still have, we still have A and B scenario. Like last time I drew this, B scenario is we break under this channel and go down, right, to 32,000 on Bitcoin, right, which is kind of all these bottoms put together. And that's a near-term support. But that invalidates like any potential for bull run in the near future then. And this is going to be dragged down by the S&P, right? We talked about Grayscale and how much Bitcoin they're holding. And this is how they're tying this to the stock market. So in this scenario where we have a surprise by the Fed today, S&P goes down, it'll pull Bitcoin down with it. And what will happen at the same time is where's DXY? You will see DXY go to just an astounding high at the same time. If I can find where it is.
Hey, I think you got to start organizing these charts. Hold on.
Yeah.
On a side note, I don't know. I'm gonna share something what I think is kind of funny. So just looking at that, we've got people that are in the space, and you got guys like me.
Oh God, no!
This is the typical thing that we usually see, right? So where's Bitcoin going? Boom, boom,
I think
boom.
my son drew that chart,
This is
right?
what
Yeah,
the
the spiral
noobs.
graph.
Yeah, this is the noobs. This is what we see. So it's good to actually look at a professional side, because when you go from here on crypto Twitter, which is this screen, to there, this is the real stuff. So here we're actually learning and seeing what the actual real outcomes are.
Yeah, thank you. Always good to
I
hear
think
that.
I think your charts look a little cleaner than that one. That's what I want to point
That's
out.
That's just crazy talk. That one. What the hell? Really?
Hey,
funny.
that's the TA memes of a
Mhm.
lifetime.
But
All right,
this,
so
I've been correct. I think pretty much every time since way back here, right?
before we
So
even started these market talks, I mean,
mhm. I
you've been
called
sharing
this
these charts
top,
within your
right?
group. It's there.
I called this top. So yeah, and you could go back to any of the previous videos and validate that really easily. We don't take them down. So what we have here with Bitcoin is we had a descending wedge. We've broken out of this temporarily, right? It's bounced off the bottom of this channel, but it's still kind of in a holding pattern with the S&P. So same thing. It's in a decision phase. What can easily happen to dump this, even though this is broken out of this wedge, is we hit about halfway up the wedge here, and then it gets rejected and comes back down again.
Like a fake out.
A few times. Mm-hmm. So obviously nobody wants to see that, because in that scenario, a lot of potential for any sort of bull run goes away in the near future.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Nobody wants that right now. So that's basically Bitcoin in a nutshell. Wait and see perspective. My hope is that we have this is respected as a bottom. We have so much on the volume profile here that's really nice to see as a support volume. That means that a lot of people have bought at these prices. That's what this volume profile is telling you. A lot of people bought here. A lot of people bought here. A lot of people bought here. And you'll see it even in Fate's information about money moving off of exchanges. That's what that is. They go in the exchange and buy it, and they move it to a cold wallet.
So that's actually what I was just going to say. I was looking at some of those reports, and the amount of BTC leaving exchanges right now going to cold wallets is a lot. And you're actually seeing a lot more of those happening recently. And that's usually also a signal that they're not going to be selling, and that they're just been in accumulation phase, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 days ago. I saw one where there was like 150 million leave. I think it was Coinbase. I think it was that one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but think about it. Why? I mean, I'm sure I know money's relative, but $150 million to leave on an exchange, even like what are you doing? I don't know. Unless there's just
nobody wants to keep that much
day.
money on an exchange unless they're going to trade it, right?
Yeah.
That's really stupid to keep $150 million on an exchange where you don't own it.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so this was Bitcoin. How about ETH, BNB? We have those.
Mm-hmm. So the top is Ethereum, bottom is BNB. And we see that BNB is kind of in this very, very long consolidation phase here.
Right in the middle.
In fact, I can probably show VPVR. It's probably, it's huge around here. So many people have been buying it in this area. So many people. Scale this out on the daily. Right.
So weird that that's showing that volume is increasing so much, and yet it's still going sideways. You would think that with so many more buys or coming in, that it would go up and not sideways.
Yeah, you would think, right? It's an interesting perspective on it. So
even looking at ETH, that's even way more than BNB, and that's like on the bottom. No, that's on support right now.
Yeah, so this is Ethereum on the daily, right? We had these kind of Elliott wave patterns channels here, broadening wedge, which we broke out, but then got rejected at the halfway up. Kind of, the scenario I talked about with Bitcoin, that could happen, or it goes halfway up, breakout, and then gets rejected. That's what happened on Ethereum here. So this is actually was a bearish type breakout. Now it gone back to consolidate again. So
this is interesting, because right before you pulled up these charts, I told you that Fate said on BNB hold, but then ETH sell. But take that for what you will, because again, her opinion changes when you ask throughout the day, right? It's always fluid. But looking at those charts, because BNB is there, it's in that accumulating phase, right? And you can hold it there because it's like going up or down. But then ETH, because it's on that support, perhaps she's saying sell because it's on that support line, and she might see it going lower than that. Or then to just like wait to see what happens. Whereas with BNB, it's more of like a let's see what happens type context. That's my breakdown of that.
yeah, hold is
just
kind
based
of
on looking at the actual charts now.
Yeah, what I'm expecting that Fate thinks here is that we're going to come down back to retest kind of this bottom, which is around 2,400, 2,300. Obviously, I don't want to see that personally, but I can see how that could happen.
Well, but if that does happen, then BNB would then most likely also go down. BTC would go down, right? I mean, that's kind of, ETH is the second largest market cap. So if that's going down, the other ones are most likely going down with it.
Yeah, they're tied together, like, barring any kind of internal news from the project, right? So if Ethereum announces something around hard forks, layer 2, like gas fees, like things like that are internal to Ethereum, that would kind of untie it, decorrelate it from other cryptos. But you can see here that this pattern is the same on BNB and Ethereum, right? This is really similar here.
Just that I was pointing out, though, that the pattern and the way in which it went up and then down, but ETH is on that support line, whereas BNB is like in the middle. So that is way different if you're looking at it from a chart perspective.
So the interesting way to look at this is graph them in terms of Bitcoin. And we talk about things like Bitcoin dominance, which is related to basically what is the market cap of all the altcoins versus the market cap of Bitcoin itself, right? And so more and more funds are starting to consider Bitcoin itself as its own asset class that's separate from the other altcoins due to how strongly tied to traditional markets it is now. So one of the things that I chart now is total 2 and total 2 in terms of Bitcoin, if I can find it.
I was going to say years ago, I remember always just pairing assets towards like USD value. And then I remember somebody posting a chart of the inverse of that. So then paired to like Satoshi's, right? And I remember looking at that chart and being like, this is the opposite or something. Like I couldn't actually understand it. I had to actually really look at that to be like, okay, here's what's actually going on. That is a whole nother charting type style that many traders do use. So not just looking at like the USD value. But those types of charts get scary, especially when you don't know that it's being paired against that.
Yeah, and this is thinking about whether crypto is truly bullish or if it's just institutions buying Bitcoin specifically. So if crypto is truly bullish, in general, Bitcoin dominance will go down, and you'll see the market cap of other alts go up in terms of Bitcoin. So that's what will happen, and then this will cause something called altcoin season, as many people know about.
Yeah.
So this is the total market cap of all altcoins in terms of Bitcoin here, right? So this is 25 million Bitcoin, if that makes sense. Right, the current value of all the altcoins market caps is 25 million Bitcoin. And you can kind of see, I have on the bottom, BTC.T CryptoCat. Yeah, so this bottom one, this one in blue is Bitcoin. and you can see how the altcoins in terms of Bitcoin are increasing while Bitcoin goes down. What that means, so what that means is that people have bought all these altcoins thinking in terms of dollars, and they haven't sold any of them. They're just sitting on them. So ultimately, they're pricing these major altcoins in terms of dollars to sell, which is a good thing, right? That means that people are accumulating altcoins right now because they think they're cheap, and they don't intend to sell until there's an alt season.
Looking
if
at
they were
that
now, and then you would see basically this would continue to be going down. The total market cap of altcoins would be going down in terms of Bitcoin, right? Because they would be de-risking from alts to get out of crypto because they think ultimately the future of crypto is bearish. But this does not indicate to be the case with this chart for me.
looks like a mini cup and handle kind of forming with the BTC one, the blue line.
Yeah, when you look at Bitcoin in terms of a line chart, it looks like a cup and handle, right? Which is it's different. When you look at it this way, it's interesting, right? It's just a different way of charting it.
Well, it looks like it's ready to go. I mean, I'm hoping for it like that, but hey, we'll see what happens today. Got to take one day at a time.
Another thing to think about here is, we talk about Grayscale and how much money they have, right? So the things to look at there, and Fate will tell you this too. You can actually do /IGBTC, and it'll tell you the discount or premium to the NAV for Grayscale's GBTC trust, which is very important, right? Right now, Grayscale's funds, their GDLC trust and their GBTC trust, are at huge discounts to their NAV. I calculated it yesterday. I think it was like 44 and 36%, something crazy. So basically, what's happening is,
well, they're losing right now.
Go ahead.
They're losing right now, right? I mean, that's not good. I mean, I'm looking at 26.45, the GBTC. That's a big difference. That's a big spread.
Yeah. So what that means is that institutions, and to buy directly from Grayscale, you need a large amount of money to buy into their trust directly. They're offering institutions a way to buy crypto at a discount. That's basically what that is right now. So this is a little concerning for me, because if they're able to buy Bitcoin at like a 30 to 40% discount, somehow that gap has to close. And that closes by either crypto has to pump 30 or 40% up for those people to kind of close that discount to the NAV, or crypto
has to crash.
Right?
Has to come down pretty hard. Yeah.
Crypto would have to crash down to the value of Grayscale's fund, right? Or Grayscale has to come up, right? So one or the other has to happen. You cannot perpetually run a discount to your NAV like that for a long amount of time. It just doesn't make any sort of sense, right? People lose faith that you're even tracking any sort of spot market.
True. Yeah. It's like, what's the point of this then? Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of money in there right now. So
there's a lot of money in there.
Wouldn't want that to happen. Yeah.
So that's a big thing to watch.
Okay.
They don't actually chart that in TradingView. I think YCharts has it. And also Grayscale's website has it. So this, you got to go to like a different site to see this. You'll see here, negative 26% discount to the NAV.
Doesn't add up. That's the other side that a lot of people aren't actually talking about. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, and this is very important to look at, right? Because this is where big money is buying Bitcoin right now. They crossed over February 24th of last year. This is where it became negative. And that is right around the top of that bull run that we had in 2021. So this is actually really important, right? So basically what happened was, let's zoom out here. I'm going to turn these off temporarily so we can just talk about this for a sec. We had this huge run up after COVID in Bitcoin, huge, right? This is February 24th for this is where the NAV changed to be a discount over a premium, is right at this top, right? And that means that at this point, institutions had a bearish perspective on Bitcoin and crypto. They began this bearish perspective here, which, as you know, I mean, I did a market talk a long time ago about this, that how this was a top due to a 1 year period from here to the COVID crash. And that's due to capital gains taxes, right? We just talked about wash sales. Now it's capital gains, right? So they buy it a year ago, they sell it in 1 year, then they have a more preferable tax treatment. So everybody sold here 1 year later. And that also was where the NAV turned to be a discount to the NAVs, because everybody knew this was going to happen. And then they sold on the institutional side, which then caused this feedback loop of pessimism, caused this dip here. Surprisingly, we came back up to meet it again, and then they sold it again.
Well, back down again.
So that's basically how this all played out, right? So institutions still have had a bearish perspective through this cycle. And I think it's now that we're in this situation with inflation, all this stuff, and the fact that Bitcoin is priced in dollars, if the value of that dollar goes up, naturally, just due to economics, the value of Bitcoin goes down because it's priced in dollars.
True. Right? Got to get away from that.
This is all, it's all tied together. It's all tied together, right? Now, the other thing to consider is that typically bear runs last about a year to 18 months, right? So we start from this top and we project out, you know, probably about here, right? Something like that. August, like late summer, something like that, right?
Of this year.
Of this year. Right. So that is from the institutional side what they're thinking about right now.
Well, let's stay a little bit positive. Let's find out what happens today.
But yeah, like I said, a lot of it's going to be, the direction's going to be set by the Fed today about what's going on. Everybody's going to wait on that. We're going to either have scenario A, which is keep the party going, or scenario B, which
party's over,
will lead to this. And this is a 75 basis point hike. It's going to dump, come back, get rejected, and dump further, which then will have implications across the board. It'll have implications in crypto. It'll have implications in politics. It'll probably have implications in the war with Ukraine. It's going to be...
Well, it's time for midterms. I mean, that's also another thing. So that's aside from politics.
Yep.
Definitely lots of other stuff happening behind the scenes. All right. Let's actually end it on that note. We're a little bit over the time. A lot of information today. Hopefully we get the answers soon. That's we say 2 o'clock, but if they come out at 12:01, I mean, why not hit us? I want to know if the party's going on or if we're ending it. That's it.
Yeah. So everybody wants the chart to go up, right? Everybody does.
For me, it's also just interesting to see all the kind of recent announcements that are also coming out. The amount of businesses and banks that are also now just openly going into the space, right? You know,
this
if you were to take all this
to
kind
build
of news,
product, this is a time to build relationships. This is the everybody's on the product side right now. Whenever you have like kind of a winter or crypto winter or bear market, this type of thing, everybody gets these deals in place, right? Because it's not one of the only things you can do, but wait, right?
Very true. All right. So today we'll hopefully get some positive news. We want the party to keep on going. That's my opinion on that. All right. Will, thank you for joining. We'll be in Telegram for those that want to learn more about Fate, about Flourishing. Everything is in the description below. I even put Will's LinkedIn account too, so you could find out more about him. And we had talked about perhaps some premium content coming soon in regards to technical analysis, trading strategies, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's coming. That's coming, guys. I know we mentioned it a while back about this idea of a premium informational content, premium community, this type of stuff. So it's in the works. It's coming really soon. We're just dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's for the obvious reasons. So,
Yep, we got to hit him with a disclaimer. All right. Will, thanks for joining. I'll be in Telegram. Hang in there and seeing right now.